And all right, player can run into the obstacle. So if we take a look at what we have right now, left off from last time, we have the obstacles. We have our player, but if I just allow the obstacles to run into the player, nothing really happens. Like there's no game over state for this. So we're gonna want a some kind of method so that we can know, have we as the player run into an obstacle? So one thing that we can do for this is whose job is this? Is this going to be the obstacle's job, where we say, hey, obstacle, are you running into the player? Or is this going to be the player's role? Hey, did you run into an obstacle? I don't know if it really matters too much. We're still going to like pass the obstacle or the player into whoever is the one in charge of this. So maybe we should do the player is aware if it's running into an obstacle. So in our player, we can have a new function. So pub function is running into obstacle. And this is going to be the same AABB bounding box collision detection that we did with the JavaScript version. Although it's been long enough, and I continuously forget exactly which like algorithm it is, but we'll check that out. Okay, so we're not going to mutate anything on ourselves. We're just going to return a Boolean, I believe, and then the game can then determine, like stop the game at that point. Now we are going to need the obstacle, so we're probably going to want a reference to the obstacle so we don't take ownership of it. So this is going to be our obstacle, which is a reference to a type obstacle which we need to bring in. So if I go super, that brings me one level up. Then I believe I can go obstacle, and that gives me the obstacle. And we're going to return a type Boolean. Okay. Obviously, it's just having a problem with us not having returned this Boolean yet. But let's see if we can get this. We can also cheat. So I mean, it's not really cheating that much. So if I open up, let's maybe go to the real terminal here. If I go to the P5 version, I believe it was in the player. Let's oh, I went into playground. I want, oh, it's just player.js, not a directory. Vim player is hitting obstacle. So yes, this is the algorithm that we're using here. So if I put this over to the left, we'll make this, it's just above my head. Perfect. Move you over to the right. All right. Are we running into the obstacle? So we're going to just straight up return. So we're going to start with this.location.x. All right, well, that's simple enough. That is self.location.x is less than the obstacle.location.x plus the obstacle width. And then it's and. So if we think this through, we want the top left of the player. So the top left position of the player, so I guess that would be over here, and plus the width, so that'd be the right-hand side. If the right-hand side is greater than the location of the x, so that means if it's going to be to the right. I think that makes sense. So Oh, no, I missed this line. We did that one, so then and. Now it's check the right-hand side to see if it, okay, so it's if the left-hand side, is that to the left of the right-hand side of the obstacle. And now it's, okay, and self.location.x plus self.width, is that greater than, so that's going to be to the right. So is our right-hand side to the right of the left-hand side of the obstacle? So obstacle.location.x and then we're going to repeat the same thing for the y's, because we could be jumping on top of it and like land on it. So we do need to handle that. So self.location.y, if that is less than the obstacle.location.y plus the obstacle.height, and self.location.y plus self.height is greater than obstacle.location.y. So what are our errors here? Oh, the field location of struct obstacle is private. So we have to make these public or create some kind of lens for us to get those out. So if we open up the obstacle, like I have get location, which gives us a point, which gives us the XY. We can just try that. Vrizix, hello. Have I tried Rust Analyzer lately? I tried it a couple weeks ago, and it was good, but I felt that it wasn't helping me as much as RLS. As in, it didn't give me quite as many autocompletes, and that's really what I was going for, is autocompletes between files, and it was really close to that, but not quite. So I'm keeping an eye on it. Maybe sometime soon. I know that like every week they're doing an update, which is pretty crazy awesome. All right, so our obstacle, so we can do get location as part of this X. So I can run the get location once at the beginning. So let's do obstacle location equals obstacle.get location. That gets us this point, and so now we can replace obstacle.location with obstacle location. Now, obstacle width is also a problem. So the width and the height. So I'm thinking, because we don't have any lens for that, I could create a function here. So this is an obstacle. So pub function get size. And we can return a tuple of the width and the height. So the width would be an F32 and the height would be an F32. And so we'll return this tuple of self.width, self.height. And so then in player here, we can do the same thing. Let obstacle width equals, actually it's going to be in a tuple, obstacle width, obstacle height equals obstacle dot get size. Now when we do obstacle dot width, it's just going to be obstacle width, and you will be obstacle height. All right, hopefully that should get us our collision detection here. if we go back to our main library, we can now run is running into obstacle and pass in the obstacles to see whether or not we are running in. So let's go into the main library here. So in update, time since start, let's just throw this in here. If, so it's going to be our self.player dot is running into obstacle, and then we'll do self dot, so a reference to self dot obstacle 1, or if we're running into the second obstacle. So self dot player is running into obstacle, self dot obstacle 2. Okay, so if we're running into either of those, then I guess what should we do? We can maybe just like log out to the terminal that we've run into the obstacle. So let's do print line, we ran into an obstacle. Okay, so if I save that, oh, and you need to be a reference as well. No errors. Let's see if this works. So I'm going to run you, and I'm going to try to move the screen out of the way so we can see the print lines when it happens. Ran into an obstacle. No more. Ran into an obstacle. Ran into an, okay, perfect. So it seems to be working. I guess one thing I didn't test there, maybe it would be a good one, is can I jump over without it yelling at us that we ran into an obstacle? Yes, of course we can. And if I try to land on it, yep, okay, so that works too. So this, when we run into an obstacle, we want to just stop the game. I'd probably go to some kind of end game screen. Which reminds me, we want an entire score, don't we? A score of how many that we jumped over. So I need to add that in. Keep score and display on screen / end game screen. So we want that to be on both of the screens here. Okay, so player can run into the obstacle, kind of, but we also need the game to end and us to move to like an end game screen. Which means we kind of need some kind of like state. Are we running the game? Or are we not? So I can do this with a struct. We can also do this with an enum, because we can only be in one state at a time. So if I do an enum, I can basically store the state here, right? Do immediately like state, and then we'll have our enum here, which then could change throughout the game. So maybe it'll be playing, game over. Maybe just plain and game over could be the two states. So I could put my enum in this file, or I could create another file and just store the enum in there. It feels like that might be the best way to do that. So let's do that. Let's create a new. I'll call this game state.rs. So we're going to do a pub enum game state, and we're going to have two arms, so to say. We're going to have plain game over, and that's pretty much it. If we need to implement on this, have some kind of extra logic, we can at that time. But let's now import this. mod game state, use game state, and now our state is going to be game state. Dato, hello! Welcome, welcome. Awesome to have you here. Let's see. So we now have our game state. We need to set this as the default, which I think we're just doing plain. So I'm going to change this to game state here, just to make it a little bit more explicit. Game state is now going to be equal to game state plain. So we're going to start in a plain state, and then we'll just store that in here. Now, if we're in a plain state, we want to now, we want all these updates to happen, and we also want the draws to happen. And it's possible we can like have different functions that just handles all of this stuff, maybe elsewhere in this file. And then that way we can, not really worry about where to, like, having this function just be like super huge. Maybe for right now, we could do a match statement. We can throw that in there and maybe see if we can like break it out a little bit. So in our update, we're gonna have a match on self.gameState. So if we are game state plain, then we want to do all of this. Okay, so if we're plain, we're gonna do it. Basically, we're just gonna do all the things here. Now, if we're not plain, which is this one right here. So if we're not plain, that's gonna be game state game over. If I just don't do anything right now, ooh, a nice VS Code plugin. Oh, a bracket pair colorizer. Yes, I have heard of that. And I have, come on, eyelash getting in my eye. I have heard of that one. I would not mind installing that. Is it this one? Bracket pair? Yes, I believe it is. Let's give it a shot. Yeah, okay, there we go. I don't want expected. I just do that. Not there. New version is advertised. Wait, was there a new version? A new version is being developed at Bracket Pair Colorizer 2. Do they have? Oh yeah, here. By the same person. Okay, so uninstall, reload required. Let's try it again. Bracket pair colorizer 2 this time. Let's see if that works. I mean, it worked the other one. Okay, I mean, it should be about the same. Yeah. Thank you both, Dota and Rizix for that. I was like, oh, first one, there we go. Click. All right, so we have our game state, game over, and I'm not going to do anything with this, which means everything should just halt the second that we reach a game over. But of course, we need to actually set that game over, which we're going to do right here. We're going to say when we run into the obstacle, we're going to do self.gameState equals game state game over. And so if we play now and we lose, everything should just halt, but nothing else should change. We should still just display everything, but nothing will move. All right, perfect. For some reason, I felt this was a little bit easier for me than the P5.js version. But that just might also be I'm a little bit more familiar with GGEZ and Rust than I am with P5.js. Now, if I wanted to have nothing draw also, that would be pretty easy. I could just do the same match statement over drawing all of these things. Which, yeah, I think we could definitely do. So in our graphics, we always want to clear, and then we have our player mesh. We have the two obstacle meshes, and that's all we're really drawing here. So if I just do a match here as well, so match self.gameState. We're going to do a game state when we're playing. So yellow is where we're going for it. And then we also need to do game state, game over. Now I don't have anything at this moment, but I will. We're gonna have something else display as soon as we're game over. So as soon as I lose, the entire screen should just go blank. And maybe that's a little bit jarring, but yeah, we just lost. It's over. Now we want to display. I'm thinking move this maybe a little bit up. We want to display an end game screen. So the player can run into an obstacle now. I want to keep the score and display on end game screen. This is maybe more like two different things. Let's find out if I do a function to hold these. Will that work for me? Or maybe I'll do a function to just draw the new stuff. And I can implement this off of my game here. So we have our pub function new, that's purple. So we can just do an internal function of draw endgame screen. We know that we're going to want self. I don't know if we want to mutate it at this point in time. We also know that we're going to need a context, and it's a mutable reference to the context. And so this is going to be really questionable. Are we going to be able to draw at this point in time? And we're going to return a game result, just like that. All right, so far it's not yelling at us. So if I just try to like create like a game over text. So let's do let game over text equals, let's grab a new text. I've not done very much with text kind of stuff in GGEZ. So I've always just done sort of, okay, I'm going to do text new, and then our fragment. And this can just be a string. So we could just say game over. And I want to just immediately draw this to the screen. So we're going to do graphics draw, hand it our context. the reference to the game over text, and then drop params. Default, and then let's give it a custom destination. So point, ooh, do I not even have point 2 in here? I don't even have a point 2 in here. So algebra vector 2, let's go ahead and give us point 2 as well. New, okay, and so let's just, for right now, put it in the middle of the screen, like 500.0, 500.0, wherever that ends up going, and then we'll question mark this. Actually, if I just return this straight up, it should be the game result. And so now the only thing that is yelling at me is the fact that I haven't used it. But let's see if I do, if this is going to be a problem that I'm passing mutable reference to context in. So draw endgame screen. So I want to self.draw endgame screen and pass it the context. Expected, oh, and then question mark. So far, no error there. Let's go ahead and try running this. See if we can get that actually displaying for us. So we failed to jump over the first thing, and game over there just displays right in the center. Of course, super small text because I haven't changed the font at all. But we can maybe do something about that. I can scale it up, but I've done that before and the font looks terrible if you just straight up scale it up. I think there is a way. Let's go to creates.io. I need to create a new font. And specifically, so if I go to text, so that's how I create the text. Now, once I have that, it returns a full text object for me. Then I can set the font and pass it in a font and a font scale. Okay, so that's what I'll have to do. Go to example and GitHub. Wait, do they have? Oh, the examples in GitHub off of GGEZ, yes. Because in here they do have some text drawing, I believe. Text. Okay, so here's this new text. That's just plain text. Okay, so they just insert that into some kind of array. Saint Plays Things, hello everybody. Thank you very much for the raid. Saint Plays Things, let's go take a look at your channel. How was your stream? Everyone, welcome, welcome, welcome. Oh, Coding Garden, you're also was part of that too. Thank you everybody for stopping by. If I go to twitch.tv/SaintPlaysThings. What were you streaming? Ah, that's that. Coding in JavaScript, Python, sometimes random languages by the viewers. Awesome. Saint is a mod on your channel. Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. Oh, Clash of Code. Well, awesome. Clash of Code is really fun. I have not yet joined you all on Clash of Code recently, but everybody, let's check out Saint Plays Things. The chat is over here for me. Sounds like they do pretty awesome stuff. Also, CJ with Coding Garden, highly recommend you check him out too. They obviously do these Clash of Code things. It's pretty fun. I haven't been able to join in recently because usually he streams right when I have my stand up, and then today I just sort of like slept in. All right, so what we're doing. I have been learning game programming patterns, and I've been using this book called GameProgrammingPatterns.com by Robert Nystrom. We've gone through the first chapter of it, and then I got my new desktop computer, which means that I can do Rust programming again. So I am now rebuilding the demo app that I created with P5.js, and now it's running in Rust and GGEZ. So if we run that, let's see if it runs or if I've got it in a not working state. Nope, it fully runs. So we have a player, we have some obstacles that the player is running towards, and we can jump over the obstacles. I don't have a score yet, and if we run into it, we just get a game over. So I was working on getting this game over screen looking a little bit better than just, well, this. Have I checked out Dino? Is built on top of Rest in Tokyo. So I haven't checked it out. I've been following along, listening to it. I watched some of your stream, CJ, where you talked about Dino and sort of showed it off. So I'm really interested in learning more about it, and maybe trying it out. So with that, let's I don't have, you know what's interesting is I don't have all of the emotes don't always show up in my chat. So like you're trying the beanie hipster emote. I don't know why it doesn't show up for me. It shows up for other people. Like Alka was trying some of his too, which is really, really interesting and fascinating. Also, let's not do that. Okay, if I, oh, you have this extension, the Franker face, and that adds it in and makes it work. Sometimes you don't pay attention if an emote is from there or not. Oh, okay. I might have to pay attention to that. All right. So we're drawing our end game screen content, which is going to be in this function up here. Out of curiosity, because a bunch of you came over from CJ's stream, how many of you are familiar with the programming language Rust? So that gives us our game over text. Not you, Silverduck. 0. Coding Garden is 0. RE24 is 0. Right, and 0 is false. Yeah, I figured that. I really like Rust. Like, it's a super, super fun language to me. It is, I mean, if you talk to Rust people, they'll say it's a replacement for C++. It's a language written by Mozilla. It is being used to make their Firefox engine so much faster than it was before. And it has type safety. Like really, really, really strong type safety. It also has thread safety. So that way I don't run into any problems where it's like, oh, hey, I have threads that like, I mean, you can still have them finish the wrong times, but I can't accidentally get out of, get into really, really bad bugs that cause horrible security errors like we get every once in a while with those old C and C++ libraries. What I've got here, I'm using a game engine called GGEZ. It's written by in pure Rust, like there's no non-Rust in it whatsoever. And it's based sort of loosely on or inspired by a game engine called Love2D and Lua. Love2D and Lua was inspired by P5.js or processing. So it's sort of like this long way around to get here. I know a lot of Coding Garden, your viewers are also Coding Train viewers. So I know that he does a lot of processing in P5.js. So it's we're sort of like going back and forth through this. Nova, no problem whatsoever. Glad to have you here. The octopusy ploop ploop is still good. All right, so I want to make this game over text a little bit bigger, and I was about to go and take a look at this example that we have here on GitHub of how we scale this up. So I create this new text. I want to use graphics font and then scale it. So it looks like that's what I need to do. This is actually what happens in text new. The string gets automatically converted into a text fragment, and then I believe I can just call font and set font default and scale uniform. So I'm going to need to bring in a font, which, where does that come in from? Graphics. So font and scale. Then down here, I can do game over text is it set font? We're gonna do font. Let's do default, just like whatever the default font is, and then we're gonna set the scale uniform, and then it takes a floating point, a 32-bit floating point number. I don't know. Let's try like 5.0. See whatever that is. If I don't do anything else and I just draw it, let's see what happens. I'm also going to just to make the, oh, we have an error here. This is another big thing about Rust. It won't allow you to do anything without you specifically saying, I want to do this. It's yelling at me that I am trying to mutate this game over text. But I didn't tell the engine or the compiler, I want to mutate, like I want this to be able to be mutated. So I have to specifically say, I want this to be mutable. Then I can change it. And these are all different ways to like make the language a little bit more secure, a little bit easier to not have bugs. So if I go up to our top, I'm gonna say that we're not playing. Like we're just gonna straight up start game over. So when I run this, the compile time, ooh, that scale, that's really, really small. To me, that kind of looks like 5-point font, or at least close to it. So when I say 5, what I probably want is maybe something like 25, maybe even larger. Maybe even, yeah, 100 is, I think, CJ is suggesting. So let's try that. Let's try 100 and see how large we can get. There we go. That looks pretty good. Something else that we can do here. I was taking a look at the documentation for for this. So in text, some of these functions that we can get here, we're going to get a text fragment. There is a dimensions, returns the width and the height of the formatted and wrapped text. So if I get the width and the height, I can calculate exactly where I want to place on the screen to have it like be in the center, be in the top part. It'll be really easy to put that in there. Nice. Can I use any system font? I believe that I can, although do I have like a fonts? I do. I don't know for certain that I can use any system font at all, or if I have to like load it into the program. So if I want to try something crazy like this, Annie, we have to go into font now. So font new, so that gives it, we have to give it the context. Okay, load a new TTF font from the given file. So it doesn't know where the fonts are. I have to, I would have to copy the font file into the game directory and then give it access to it. That's maybe a little bit too much right this second, but maybe something we can do later. The Annie font, I was just choosing something as this one right here. It's a little like, it looks a little bit crazy, so it'd be really easy to see, hey, look, the font loaded up properly. Have I seen Open Dyslexic? I have seen the Open Dyslexic font. I've used it in the past. And the problem that I have with it, so for everyone else, CJ does know I'm dyslexic, which does make reading certain things like really hard for me, especially like if it's really like tight and walls of text. Open Dyslexic, if let's just go to that. Here's an example of the Open Dyslexic font being used. It is an asymmetrical font. Which means like the left and the right aren't the same. There's weights in like weird little places. Because of that, it requires more subconscious effort to read, which makes it less conscious effort for dyslexic people to read. Other like handwritten style fonts, they work just fine. So Comic Sans, actually really easy for me to read. So for years, I would just try to load up Comic Sans, Papyrus. What are the other ones that like designers hate? Basically all those like handwritten weird fonts that like every designers hate us for wanting to go there. And I know they have updated recently, but I don't know. I got Open Dyslexic Mono and tried to use it for programming, and it's easier to read, but it's really like, I don't like the look of it, if that makes sense. So we are going to scale. Okay, we can get the size. Its dimensions, and it returns a tuple. Yeah, you've heard about the mono variant? Yeah. So let's get the tuple. Also, so I asked earlier how many of you have used Rust? How many of you are like only JavaScript? Like that's the only language you've programmed with. So I have our game over text. Let's now get our dimensions. Let font. I guess this will be game over width, game over height. Wait a second. Coding Garden, CJ, I know you programmed in more than JavaScript. You started with C#. or at least you programmed professionally in C# for a while. This is going to be our game over text dot dimensions. Pass it into context. And some TypeScript, yeah. So a tuple type is like, Rust gives us a little bit more types than we get in JavaScript. So a tuple type is denoted by parentheses, and it's basically just a way for me to have two types side by side in a single little data structure. So I'm destructuring it out exactly like you could destructure with arrays in JavaScript here. So now I'm going to have game over width and game over height as variables available to me. So when I draw here, I can now do calculations of exactly where I want to put it. And on top of that, I can now grab out, so I'm going to do arena width, arena height equals graphics, drawable size, pass it in the context. And so now I can do my full calculation. So if I want the exact center of the screen, so the width I'm going to say is the arena width divided by 2.0. So that gives me the exact center. But then I want to subtract by half of the game over width. So minus, so let's make sure we do this first, and then minus game over width divided by 2.0. I believe that I don't need these parentheses. It should just work. I don't know. I like to use them because it helps me like parse through it a little bit better. So if I do that and nothing else, and we run this, oh, what's our... game over width is not an F32. These are okay. So these are unsigned integers. The difference between unsigned and signed, you might see like assigned with I, and unsigned is just the minus. Like there's no possibility for this number to be negative. So I need to convert this to an F32 for me to use it in here, because they all need to be the same types. Wouldn't width need to be a float? So these are floats. These are F32s. So arena width, I need to basically say as F32 to convert it over there right at that moment. And casting in Rust is usually pretty easy as long as it handles that. Okay, so this is exactly the center of the screen, so that's perfect. And now if I want it to be in like the top little bit, I don't necessarily need to use the game over height here. I could just say I want this to be like 250 down. U32 is an unsigned float or an unsigned int. Unsigned int. And data, I already got that, yeah. So I'm getting this yellow sort of squiggly here. It's a warning because I have unused variables. It's basically there's a linter built into Rust, which is really awesome. For me to tell it, hey, I don't want to use this, I'll just put a underscore in front of it, which basically says, yeah, I know I'm not using this. That warning will go away. So let's run this again. Let's see how this looks. Game over. Okay, that's pretty perfect. Now I want a score to be right in the middle there. So we need to store a score. So I have this entire game state here. Let's have a score. So structs are similar to classes in JavaScript or other object-oriented languages. Rust isn't an object-oriented language though, so it's like you can program in that style, but there's some differences. Like there's no inheritance, so to say. That's my question. Wouldn't a dimension potentially have a decimal place? Interesting that it's an integer instead of float. Yeah, I know it does feel like that's a little bit weird that the size of the font is a non-floating point number, like there's no decimals. But maybe, you know what? My scale. My scale takes an F32. So that's really weird, because if I say like 100.5, one would think that my dimensions would now have to be a float, but it specifically returns a U32. So I wonder what it's doing with the scale for that. And yeah, 100.0. Yeah, you can't have a pixel. That's true. Like half a pixel. Although, I don't know, with like the 4K monitors, kind of, sort of weird, because like every pixel is 4 pixels or something like that. All right, so this is where I declare the types for the struct, or the object or class or whatever we want to call it, structs here in Rust. I'm gonna say that let's imagine that we can go really, really high. We can never go negative in score, so we want it to be a U. And I can go any type of number that I want. Let's go 64-bit number. But we're going to be very, we're going to believe that people are going to get really, really high scores with this game. And so now when I create the new game, so here's my constructor for it. I'm going to initialize it. So let score equals, we're just going to start with 0. And then I'm returning a result that has that instantiates this. So we're gonna go score and just store it in there. Exactly the same as JavaScript. If I just have the same name, I don't have to do like score : score, but I could do that here. What class is the dot dimensions from? The class, or struct as it were, comes from. So it's a method that's part of text. So the struct would be text, and all structs in Rust have to start with a capital first letter. So if I take you, Coding Garden, you already got that. Thank you very much. Okay, so if we do that. Now in our, game over screen, I can now create our text with a score. So let mute score text equals text new. And then I'm just going to say, so I need to create like this string, but there's no such thing as like plus for that. So there's a special macro method that I can use. Jinkya, hello! Welcome to the stream. So I'm gonna call this format. All of these special, super special functions start with have a bang in here. I'm gonna say you scored, or maybe you jumped over, and then the number, and then obstacles. And then in here, it's going to be the self.score. And so this is going to actually create a string for us, just like this. And it's going to hand it to the new text constructor, which now is in score text. It's actually yelling at me because it doesn't need to be mutable yet, because I'm not actually mutating it. But that's going to come up right here. So we're going to do our score text dot set font. Font, let's just do another default. We're going to scale uniform. Let's make this maybe a little bit smaller, like 75. Coding Garden, thank you for bringing in Samwise again, so you can do the jump game. I never added that to mine. Plus, I haven't brought my I resuscitated my chatbot from when I accidentally exposed the keys and had to reset those. It should be an integer then. Your favorite here, it's returning pixel dimensions, which would get floored anyhow. Okay, that's what makes sense then. So it's behind the scenes, they're flooring it. So even if I do scale it by some kind of point, it's going to floor it to whatever it is. So if I do 100.5, it'll still be 100. All right, so we now have our score text. Now if I want to get the height, we're going to do score width, score height equals score text dot dimensions, and the context. And so we do this one draw here. I can't do the draw multiple times. I have to do this draw all together. So I'm going to question mark this and semicolon. The semicolon actually is like telling Rust that if there's an error, so if it throws an error, go ahead and bubble up that error through game result. But I'm getting an error now because I must still return a success result. So Rust is nice that it makes you go through all of the different possibilities that could possibly happen and not forget things, because I don't know about you, I have definitely forgotten to finish the giant if statements before. It's happened. All right, so let's do another graphics draw. So we're going to give our context a reference to the score text. Now I could, every time that we go into the score text, it's actually every frame re-rendering this, which is not super great. I could definitely store these in the main struct and then reference them. Maybe we can do that later. This is not, the computer can handle this pretty easily. All right, draw param, default, we're gonna send it to the destination, point to new. Again, this could also be stored. Maybe I can even create structures for each of these specific game over states. I'm not gonna worry about that too much. Let's put this in a center. Bad pattern. Yes, definitely a bad pattern, but a lazy pattern. That's what I'm gonna call it. All right, so we're gonna put this in the center of the screen as well. And now we need the specific size of the text. So arena width minus, this is the score width as F32 divided by 2.0. So that brings us to the center XYs. And maybe for this one, we can bring this into the exact center Y. So this will be the arena height, which means I need to undo you. Arena height divided by 2.0 minus send half of the score height. So score height as F32 divided by 2.0. So that's just gives it drop params. That's fine. Here, question mark, semicolon, and then at the very end, I need to return an OK with basically nothing in it, because that's what I'm telling it that I'm returning here. And so if I do that, and we run, we should get a score. You jumped over 0. You jumped over 0 obstacles. St. Place Things only took you till now to join your own raid. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for the raid. I had asked you how you were doing, but I guess that happens to me sometimes too when I raid. Is if I don't open up the window properly on my screen, it will stay on my that special Twitch streamer view, and I won't join everyone else. But thank you very much for that raid. It was really awesome. And also, how was the stream? Welcome, you're good. How about me? You had it open, but I had to run because people were getting angry since the food was getting cold. Oh, like probably dinner or lunch or breakfast or something. Things have been going really well here. We're making an infinite runner game, like super basic, and also then going to be using that to learn game design patterns. And of course, yes, we're doing it in Rust as Ajinka used. So you highlighted the right. I haven't like set up any of the other sort of like point system things, which I'm trying to figure out what exactly I want to do for that. All right, so we have the 0 points. So now what I need is to figure out some way to increment my score. Because I have this score here, we want to make that score go up every single time. Well, every single time we jump over something. So I want to reset the game over to be playing. And I'm thinking every single time we reset an obstacle to go back to the right-hand side of the screen, that's when we know we've successfully jumped over said obstacle. If I want ideas for that, Twitch has a guide in them. You can always look around the Live Coders team and just borrow some ideas from them. You know, I haven't checked out the Live Coders team too much. Like I know CJ, you're part of it, and I know it's growing quite a bit. And so I like see, oh, they're part of the Live Coders team. But yeah, I'll take a look. See what they're doing. Maybe borrow some of them, as you suggested. Okay, so when we updating here, so if the obstacle is off screen, we reset the location. Well, when this happens, we can also increment our score. So I can just say self.score. There is no plus, so I have to do plus equals to 1. Now I'm doing the 2 obstacles here. Self.score plus equals to 1. My personal feeling is the rule of 3. I'm only doing it twice, so I'm okay with this little bit of duplication of code. I could, like, I don't know, put it into an array or a vector, I guess, instead of an array, and then loop through them. I don't know if it's worth it specifically for this right now. You're not part of them yet. Ooh, but you might be soon. Or at least that's what it sounds like. So good luck. All right, so we increase our score. Now, if I run this, I don't have the score displaying anywhere on the screen at this point in time. But if I successfully jump over this one, and then we lose, I should have a score of 1. Yep, we jumped over 1 obstacles. Perfect. You hope so. We'll see whether or not they do their next wave of application checks. Awesome. Well, good luck. I think it would be good to also display our score on the actual screen while we're playing it, because then, you know, it's easy to forget how many that we've jumped over, especially if we have a goal. So when we're in the drawing here, let's say I want to maybe have a function where I draw the score on the screen. So if I do that here, let's say, so when we're playing, if I have a function self.draw score, we know we're going to have to pass in the context, and we know we're going to have to semicolon, and that's pretty much it. And of course, it's going to yell at me because we actually haven't done that yet. Let's go do that. So this is function draw score self, and we're going to bring in context. Context. We're going to return game results with a type that. There we go. Anyway, time to do some work for university and later stream again. Awesome. Well, good luck with your university work. Thank you so much again for the stream, for the raid. And good luck on your stream next time, later today. Okay, so I want to basically do the same thing that we're doing up here. We want to just grab our score, but we're going to have it be different. So rule 3. Also, I'm not going to have it be exactly the same text. So let's create our text. So score text equals text new. In here, we're going to do a format. And I'm just going to say score : self.score. I think we're going to want to scale this up a little bit. So if we take a look at that, that's going to make this mutable. Let's now do score text dot set font. So we have font default, and then our scale dot uniform. And I want to set this to be maybe like 25.0. Then we want to draw this to the screen. So we're going to do graphics, draw, pass it in the context, a reference to score text, draw param, default dot destination, which is a point to new. Let's just put it in the top left corner. So I guess like right way above me. So that's going to be maybe like 5 down, 5 right. Question mark. Actually, I think I could just return this exactly as it is, and that should work. Let's see if it does. There you go. So score is up there. It seems to be readable on all of the little previews that I have up. And if I now jump over this, I should probably set this feels like it's now running a little bit slower. Okay, score went up properly. Now I could also well, the reason why it's easy to do the score is based upon if it goes off the side of the screen, then that's because that only happens once and gets reset. If I do the score as it's just to the left of the player, I also have to do some kind of a state management. Have I checked its score before? Or I could do a score of the number of seconds that I've survived. I'm really curious about what our frames per second are, because I think we've dropped them down quite a bit. So there is a way for us to print that out. So if I let's do another function, draw FPS. Game results. Okay, so to get our FPS, I can get that through a timer, which is straight off of GGEZ, and I already have the timer here. So draw FPS, let's do let FPS is equal to timer. Let's get I think it's the average. Oh, here, FPS. Get the frames per second of the game, average over the last 200 frames. Pass it the context. Then I want to do the entire drawing out. Now I could create some kind of function that basically takes in the location and maybe does this draw. I don't know. This entire maybe that might be worth it doing this. I don't want to spend too much time like optimizing this game. I want to just make sure that we're getting like at least 30 frames per second though. So let's do our let FPS text equals text new. We're gonna format FPS. Okay, so drop has the context reference to FPS text. Our drop param default.dest. Let's maybe make it just like slightly below. So that's going to be point to new 5.0, same place, and maybe like let's go like 30 down. And exactly the same thing. You need to be mutable. And now I can call draw FPS down here in draw. And I can have this, well, I can now have our draw FPS. You know what? I want to do this regardless if we're playing or not. So I'm going to put this down here. Like all the time. We're always going to draw the FPS. Let's see what we get with. So GGEZ is, okay, so look at that. I have 265 frames per second. So what's slowing me down is not the frames per second. Like I'm not going to like a slow there. In fact, it's really, really fast. And maybe I just need to play around with the numbers to make like the gravity faster and this moving faster. But the frames per second are not being affected by this. But yeah, look at that. It's like so slow now. Now, I haven't done any kind of delta time to tie the frames per second towards like what I'm actually doing. So that's a potential problem here. But I do notice that the game patterns book is going to go over delta time, so I'm tying it to my CPU speed. Maybe my CPU is like being overrun by like having to do everything else, but the frames per second would be affected by that, one would think. So here's gravity is this. If I do that, my jump velocity, my jump force is going to have to be like significantly higher too. And then the final thing is obstacle. If we make that obstacle faster, let's see how this works. I mean, a little bit faster now. Very sort of like gravity could be much higher. The obstacles are moving a little bit, decently fast for us. So let's increase our gravity by like to 8 or something. And then maybe everything else could be the same. Like I've noticed that making games like this, knowing, oh, now my jump is not strong enough. So player jump force needs to be like -8. Playing with these numbers, it's super easy to get into this sort of, well, okay, let me like try to get this exactly the way I want it to. We can have these obstacles moving much faster to begin with. So if I do like negative 0.9, there you go. That looks a little bit better for us. And now we can actually play this game. And if I get hit, our game over text, look at that frames per second that it, the reason why the frames per second drops in this specific screen is because this game over and these two, creating those over and over and over again, every single frame, is actually really taxing on the CPU or the GPU. I don't know. It's also a laptop that I'm using to run this on, and so it doesn't have like a dedicated graphics card like my desktop does. Okay, so what do we have here? So if we go to our README, keep score and display on endgame screen. So that's perfect, and we have an endgame screen. We need to be able to restart the screen, the game though whenever we hit that end game. It is 11 o'clock. I've run out of water, or I ran out of tea. I am going to go grab a little bit more water, and I'm gonna go grab a little bit more water. I'll be right back in like less than a couple minutes. So in the meantime, let's do. And I'm back. I realize now that on the break screen I don't have the camera or the microphone set up, so that just sort of like probably cut me off right in the middle of me explaining I'm going on a break. But I was able to do a little bit of stretching, and I got some water. So that's perfect. We want to move on to the game can be restarted. So that does mean that we need like maybe some kind of text for displaying the restart game And I'm thinking, oh, if we do the same exact thing as last time, it's the spacebar to jump and a spacebar to reset the game. Because like that made sense. And I think we did that because we wanted to like show off the rebinding, but it almost doesn't really matter exactly what we choose. So if I choose, let's see, we're still over 60 frames per second on that. I could create more of these. This one needs to be created right here every single time though. Let's see, so in game over screen, we need to say some kind of, okay, we are, like press space, let's say, to restart. So that mutes. Let's see, restart text. So this is going to be restart game. So if I say something like this, by pressing space, that is going to be interesting to like later on when I'm allowing rebinding. I'll need to like figure out what key code we have based on. I might have to change the text from this later, but we'll run into that problem when we run into that problem. Let's do this. So instead of score text, we'll do restart text, set font, scale. So I think we can just like keep on going down. So this is like 50. And this needs to be score width. So now we're going to need to get, this is going to be restart text straight off of there. And then we're going to draw. Our restart text, and then instead of, so in a center, but then we'll get it maybe into the middle and then add a bunch. So plus like 250. And maybe this should be closer to the bottom. So maybe this could just be arena height minus. Arena height minus 250. So if I do that, we run this. We'll let the game end. Interesting. These two are in the center. This is not. I must have missed one of my drawing things here. So in our exact center. So we set the graphics. Where are you? Oh, score width. This is minus the restart text. Width, restart width. Match. Hello. Good. I guess it's still morning for me. Yeah. How are you doing? That should now give us the center of the screen. There we go. That looks a little bit better. Now, of course, if I press spacebar, nothing's happening. And that's because when we're in the update here, we have game state playing, and then when we're in the game over state, literally nothing is happening. Fine over there, awesome. Back to regular streaming. Yes, I have been back to regular streaming. I've got a brand new desktop computer that is actually really, really awesome. It allows me to do Rust programming again, so that's good. I am still using the notebook for actually programming on, but I'm capturing that into the desktop and sending it out. I'm playing with some ideas for how to get Rust on the desktop. It is running Windows. I did a short series of streams where I tried to figure out how to get Rust working on it. We got it, but we got limited to 30 frames per second, which was not what we wanted. Well, I guess that might be a GGEZ problem. Yeah, but I'm not willing to take too much time with that. Nova, it's been fun. You need to head back to bed. You were only awake to get some work done. Well, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope that you have a great night then. All right, so during this game over state, what do we want to do? We want to capture if the spacebar is pressed. So if I do this, if the spacebar is pressed, then we restart the game, as it were. So we can check to see what key code that the keyboard is being pressed here. I think off of GG. Okay, yeah. So we have input keyboard and input keyboard key code is available to us. So if I do, how does it work? Keyboard. Okay, so I can get the pressed keys, but I could also check to see is key pressed. Check to see if a key is currently pressed down. And okay, so is key pressed? Hand the context. We could do key code space. So if keyboard is pressed, the space key, then we want to reset the game. Well, that sounds like we need a function to, well, reset the game and start over again. So right now we do all of that stuff here by creating a new player, setting where the player is. Now I can, yeah, I think we're gonna want to maybe have a function for a reset game. This will be mutable self because we are going to make changes. I don't know if off the top of the head we need a context, so I'm going to ignore that. I don't know if we need a game result either. We'll just wait until to see if we need to. But all this is going to do is just update our state. And I forgot self on here. So what do we do up here that I care about? So we need to create our new player. So that player new, and so update, so this creates the new player. We want to then set the player's position. Player, so I don't care about creating the player mesh. This should be created right at the beginning. Gravity is never changing. So it's really the player's position that needs to be reset. Maybe we could have a reset, like a position reset. Because I could create a new player, not give it a position. So we have a get location. If I have like a set location, and then if I have like an X and a Y, so X is F32, Y is F32. And then I can do, okay, self.location.x equals X, self.location.y equals Y. if I do this, then in the library here, heck, at the beginning, when I create a new player, I cannot bring in the location at all. Instead, our location can just be a vector. So I'll just do that here. Okay, oh, not that. That location equals vector2 new. Started off zeros. And now this makes it just location like that. And in our main library, this is now yelling at us. We start off with saying the player new, and then I'm going to need to call the reset on the player to give it the proper location. Now the problem here is when I'm calling new, reset doesn't exist yet. Yeah, so if I'm going to use self on this, reset doesn't exist. So maybe actually what I want to do is have the player remember its starting location. And if I do that, then in player, I can say I want starting location is a vector2, f32. So we're going to go back to basically an x and a y. So this will be our x, this will be our y, and then I'm going to say let starting location equals, just copy it from location, and now we can throw in starting location here. The order of the object doesn't really matter. It's just like JavaScript. It's going to randomize this anyways for us, or just however it places it into memory. Okay, so that gives us starting location. So now I can have, instead of set location, we can have reset location. We're not going to take in anything. Instead, we're just going to say self.location equals self.starting location. Sort of reset ourselves that way. I deleted self. And so now in reset here, so in function reset game, we're going to do self.player.reset location. So we're going to reset the player's location. What else do we need to reset? We need to reset the obstacles to their original locations too, and we need to reset the score. So the score is pretty easy. We can do score is equal to 0 now. The obstacles. So what do they do? So they have location to reset to. We can also have their initial location as well. So I think we called it starting location. Vector2, f32. So this is just going to be our basic initial location. And then we'll bring in starting location there. And now we can have a reset location, just like the other one. So pub function reset location self.location equals self.starting location. And so now I can have both of the obstacles reset. So self dot obstacle 1 dot reset location, self dot obstacle 2 dot reset location. I think that might be everything. Let's and of course I need to call reset game if I wanted to actually do the thing. So this is an update when we're in the game over space. If the space key is pressed, then we want to self dot reset game. There we go. Let's try it. Uh-oh, error. Duplicate definitions with the name reset location. Where previous, so 51, reset location. Wait, did I create, in obstacle, in obstacle, I have a reset location for another purpose. Yeah, I didn't even notice that I was creating this twice. So instead of reset location, this is basically we're resetting to start. Reset to start. So then in our main library, reset to start. All right, let's do that. No errors. I should be able to play the game just fine. Our score goes up. And then if I lose, we jumped over 2 obstacles, restart the game by pressing space. Okay. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to actually change our game state. So self.gameState equals game state plain. That would be helpful. So jump on over obstacle, we get a point, we die, then I can press space, and we start over again. Awesome. And then we can just do it all over again, and so that works. So coming back to our README, the game can be restarted now. And then the final thing that I wanted to do is create a button that will take the player to the help screen. The help screen being that I just want to show the commands. Like, okay, jump is space. Restart game is space. And we'll use this page later for the ability to rebind. So this sounds like another game state that we would want to be in. So in our game state, we're going to add in, maybe this is like commands or help. So we can be in the help state. Now, immediately, and this is the power of REST for us, immediately it's saying, hey, we're not covering all the possibilities when we're matching self.gameState. We have to come down here and add in, well, what if during update, we're in the help. We're in help. And what do we want to do here for this? Well, we probably want some kind of like get out of help. So if keyboard is key pressed, hint the context, the key code, is there escape? Yeah, escape. So if we press escape, then we want to self.gameState equals game state. Let's go back to playing. Like whatever the previous game state was, that would probably be best if like we store the previous game state. That shouldn't be that hard to do. When we go in, because this is just saying, hey, if we happen to be in help, let's just say we go back to playing. Like we start there. Maybe weird things can happen. That IntelliSense is pretty neat. Yeah, that's what I really like this in well, like the Rust tooling gives us that is pretty nice, and then RLS is the actual tool provided by the Rust team for that. And there are competing tools, which I think is really awesome. So we're waiting for like the competing one to get really good. So now in drawing, when we're in this game state game over, so we want game state help. We could just basically do self dot draw help screen. We'll pass it context and do that. So then draw help screen is what we need to do. Do I need mute self? I probably not right now. Maybe later. And we do know that we need context. And we're going to return a game result just like that. All right. So we have this function. Oh, it's not below me. Cool. We want to draw the help screen. What I'm thinking is just like super simple right now, and that's going to be the commands, like just the word commands, and then like jump, and then maybe like the command that we need for jump, and then space, and the command for space. So let's do I guess our title for this is going to be text new commands. Can you hear that? I think that you can hear that pretty strongly. That's I mean, it sounds like an airplane. According to the Yeti mic, that sounds like the airplane is right outside the window. But it must be. I have the windows open so that I can get some air flowing in here, which is, I mean, it's nice when I can do that during, when the warm weather is nice and warm like this. Okay, so we have our title text. We then need to scale this up a little bit. So let's allow us to mutate this. We're going to do title dot set font default scale uniform. We'll do something like 100 again, and then we're going to draw this out. Graphics draw context, our reference to our title. Oh, we do need to know exactly where to put this. So if I do our draw param default.dest, so this is going to be our point to new. All right, so the exposition, if we want to make this in the center of the screen, just like the other one, we're going to need to get the let title width title height equals title dot dimensions and context. Okay, so this is going to be our arena. Oh, then we need our arena width. So see at the top, arena width, arena height equals graphics drawable size, hand it the context. Okay, so this is going to be our arena width divided by 2.0 minus, and that's going to be the title width as F32. So that's the X, and then I want this to be like 250 down. I miss some parentheses are wrong here. So the dest is here 0.2. Oh, you need to be 250.0 like that. There. I think that'll be happier. Yeah, no errors now. All right, so that's our draw param for the title screen. If I do question mark, semicolon, we're going to return an OK like that. I don't think I mentioned it, but the very last function, the very last line of a function, I guess not line, but like whatever you call, if that doesn't have a semicolon, that's automatically returned. And so this is a result, and then I'm just passing in this. So that's why I'm doing that. Okay, so that's the command. We need some way to get into this command, like the help section. I guess for right now, I'll just start us off in the help state. And we'll just see how this is looking. I'm definitely a big fan of starting off slow and like just checking how things are going every time I run this. Commands is not centered. I didn't divide commands in half, so it's like the full commands over. So draw help screen minus title width as F32 divided by 2.0. That looks a little bit better for us. Okay, so then we're going to want our commands of like jump and then maybe like a dash and then what the command is. And I could do this like just straight off of here for right now. And I think that'll be fine. So jump, dash, and then we'll just have this be space. Title, so this will now be jump, set font, uniform. Let's make this like half the size. So jump dimensions. Can't tell if you can hear that. Can you hear my neighbors doing some yard work? Can you hear that? If so, then I'll close the windows. All right, so then we're gonna draw this. So we're gonna draw the jump, draw params, just so arena width, and this is the jump width. All right, I think that'll be it for jump. Oh, I don't want it like 250 down. I do want it a little bit farther down. Maybe starting in the center. So this is the, yeah, so I want you down by like, I don't know, 500. Yeah, it sounded like you can hear that. Plus, also the dogs are now barking a lot because they love to bark at like whenever he brings out like the lawnmower or something. I am going to fix that really quickly. Oh, I don't think I muted myself. I just hit it from my own view. That's cool. Yeah, so it turns out it was my neighbor on the other side, so that direction for me, and she is blowing out all the leaves from the backyard. Okay, so we have jump space, and we need the restart game. So exactly the same thing as we did before. I'm gonna do restart. This will be restart game. That's also space because I want to start it as something that doesn't make sense so that we can forces us to change it. And that's like going to be part of the command pattern. So then this will be restart. We're going to make it this exact same size here. We're going to get restart. Restart with having a struct that does this probably would make more sense, or maybe putting them into some kind of vector as we get more commands. Because this is starting to violate the rule of 3. So maybe that's something that we want to do. And that would make calculating exactly where to place them on the screen a little bit easier too. All right, so this is now if I do you, oh no, don't select all of those things. Just those two, and you become restart. And then I want you like 750 down. So if I do that, we should now have our jump down. Ooh, that's maybe a little bit more than we wanted. Probably we did 500. Let's try like 550. This is where doing it like actually algorithmically and figuring out exactly where to put it. Yeah, that looks like a lot better. We could also maybe have these be spaced out properly. Until then, I'm not going to worry too much about this. I'm just going to say, okay, this is our command. I'm not trying to make a sellable game that's like super juiced up, refined, looking great. I just want it to be functional. And of course, if I press escape at this point, that exited out of the game completely. That's not what I wanted. It exited cleanly. There's no error. It didn't crash. That was just a plain old exit. Is that part of GGEZ? I don't actually know if I've ever pressed escape in when I've been programming this. So maybe Maybe we need something else. Let's make sure like there's nothing weird in main. Because I don't think I have like an escape to quit out of this. User exited cleanly, so if it exits okay. If I come back to our main library here, and we go down to our update, if we're in the help state, if escape is pressed, all we're trying to do here is set the game state to playing. If I print line, so let's do a quick debug here. Escape pressed. And if I hit escape, escape pressed, exited cleanly. I think that this is part of GGEZ. Is there a like escape? I might have to like go through and look through the source code of GGEZ to see where this is set, or if there's any kind of the escape key next to F1. Yeah, okay, that's what I want, but I also want you not to completely exit the game. Is there like an exit? Search. Okay, so there's this event quit. Terminates the GGEZ event run loop by setting context.continuing to false. Runs the main game loop, calling event callbacks on a given state object as events occur. Okay, so okay, well, what called quit? If we go to source code for this. I mean, I guess I could look through the source code for like where the keyboard escape is being used. Ooh, there's keyboard event. Yeah, it does feel like there's some kind of automatic, hey, escape was clicked, we're gonna now run the quit method. I don't want that to happen. Line 110 or something. Ooh, let's go check. If key code is key code escape, quit. The default implementation of this will call GGEZ event quit when the escape key is pressed. If you override this with your own event handler, you have to re-implement that functionality yourself. Okay. I have to do I have to create my own key down event? I think that I do. I think I have to override this. It looks like it's a trait. Is it a trait? What is this on? Yeah, it's a trait on event handler. So I'm gonna have to add my own key down event. Okay. So here we have draw and update. We're gonna have function key down event. So we're gonna get context. We're gonna get the key code. We're gonna get any key modifiers, and we're gonna get whether or not it's repeating. And what does this need to return? It doesn't look like it returns anything. It allows us just to override it to do whatever we want with it. Oh, and mute self. Okay, so this allows us to mutate ourselves off of this. We need key mods, which is, I think, off of key code. Interesting, RLS did not automatically find that for me. Okay, so if this is happening, so we need to do some basic state management here. So if the key code, key code is, oh, it's an enum. So let's do match on the key code. If the key code is type key code escape, then what do we want to happen? So if we press escape, then different things happen depending upon what state that we're in. If we're in the plain state, let's bring up the help. So if let pattern, and let's see, I might want to do this in different ways because we're getting like pretty far to the right with this code, which is a little bit nasty. And I don't want to do like other draws. But okay, so if let pattern in here, I can do an if let with a key code as well. That might make more sense. Instead of the match here, let's do if let some, oh, it's not some, it's going to be key code and then the key code equals, then this is going to be the key code. So now we have access to the specific key code. Expected secret. I want. Oh, okay. So that's not. Can I do some here then? Expected a tuple struct or tuple variant found enum key code. Okay. I don't know if I can do some, like a something. Because that doesn't make sense either. Found, yeah, it's not option. So key code is a variant of key code. Oh, wait, I think it's if let key code escape. Yeah, okay, that's what it is. So if let key code escape equals that. Do I need the let? I never remember if I do. I think I can do, no, I have to have the let. This is a special, like a functional style if statement for us. Okay, so if we're in the escape mode, then we want to do self.game state is equal to game state. Okay, so if that key code escape is this, then we need to do another if statement here. So if we can, here it might make more sense to match. So we're going to match on self.gameState. Okay, so we can have a game state. If we are playing, then we want to set self.gameState equal to gameState help. If we are game state, if we are game over, self.gameState equals gameState. So if we're game over, we also want this to be, let's see, if we're playing, we want to go into help. If we're game over, we probably want to go into help as well. And game state, if we're in help, we want to set game state equals to, I mean, in a way we want to go into the previous game state. But if I instead do, well, we can store the previous game state, can't we? And I can say the previous game state to right, because when we switch over, I can store this right there. So if let's make sure it works first. Let's just do right now, we're just gonna go into playing. So if we do this, now Alt F4 still quits the game. So I don't need to worry about that. If we come now to our update, that draws the help to screen. At this point in time, I don't need to check to see if this key is pressed anymore. Now I kind of just don't want to do anything. So I just want to do nothing at all. No errors. Let's see if this works. So I'm in commands, I press escape, and we go into playing. I press escape again, we go into commands. If I lose, also that pauses the game for us, which is perfect. Game over, go to commands, and of course, goes into game over. So that's actually exactly, I don't even need to store like a previous state because we already have the, interesting. Why does it do that? If game over, 0 obstacles. Oh, it's because my player is in the losing state. So it kind of just goes to playing and then in the same exact frame, or maybe one extra frame, it detects, okay, you died and goes over. I can't actually see that happening because it happened so quickly. And so we can immediately start over again and do that. So perfect, we can now have the commands. All right, this is perfect. I think we can still quit the game with Alt F4. So in our README, create a button. So actually we'll just say the escape key. Escape key will take the player to the help screen. All right, I think that's good. I think we're at the point now where the next time that I stream, we can start going over the commands and getting that running. I can give you a quick sort of like preview of what that'll look like because I'll show you what I did for the P5.js game. So let's go here. What was it? Open up code so we can see the P5.js code, and then npx light server. So it is JavaScript, so we have to run a web server to actually run it. And so here it is. Spacebar runs. I have it running a little bit faster, so I can tweak the numbers to make that work. If I lose, I didn't actually have it bring it to a completely different screen, so it's not as nice because I have these rebind jumps separate here. So I have jumps space bound to 32 and restart game bound to 32. So both exactly the same. So if I press space, we start again. If I rebind jump to like A, and then a restart, A now jumps, and that works. And I can restart the game to like return. So I can now hit return to start to restart. The way this works is something called the command pattern. So at the beginning of the game, I have this function that generates all of my commands, and it returns this object that is actually these first-class citizens for functions. So we have the jump command, which takes this, which is itself a function that takes in an actor, which is the player, and then for that just runs the jump command on them. And it's going to be the same thing for restart game. It returns this function that basically then does the restart for us. And then I have this input handler class. It takes in all the commands when it initializes, stores in what the key code is for them, and then it has this binding function. So input handler runs the bind code whenever I click that button to bind in. So I have like some state, or like, are we in rebinding? So that way, I actually have it so you can only rebind one at a time. That way, now I think that the buttons actually technically would allow you to press them. So I can press like both buttons together without rebinding, which would screw things up. So basically, what is rebinding is just going to grab me, which is the thing that's null now. So I can set the command to not have a key code whenever I'm rebinding it. And then the handle input is where I say, okay, if the game is running, I'm going to get all the possible commands that are being run right now. So all the key codes. And let's see, so command in this that key binds. So that's going to be all the possible commands we have. And I'm going to figure out if the key is down. So are we pressing that key? We're going to determine, can we run the command? And then if we're pressing that key and we can run the command, I'm going to execute that command. Well, actually, no, I don't execute commands. I just push in the commands we're going to run to this array. Yeah, that's right. I just push into the array. Here is the list of command functions. In our main game, where is that? Right, we get all the commands. And then for each command, so we loop through each command, and then we just say, hey, command, run. Also, here's the player, because we know that you're going to need the player. And then that ends up running really well and allows us to now rebind the commands to whatever key we want. It's something that I had always wondered how games do that. I always thought they just had lots of if statements around, but this doesn't have that many if statements in it. It's much more functional in nature. And so I'm super happy with that. I am curious how I'm going to end up doing this in Rust, because I'm using functions in a more JavaScript-y way here. I think I'm going to have to create a struct for the commands, a struct for the input handler, and wrap essentially functionality around that so I can pass the struct around. And then that's going to, instead of just the raw functions themselves. We're also going to be probably getting into traits as well, so that way we can run that way. It's going to be really interesting. Also, that's cool. I am ruling. I didn't even notice that until now. Anyways, that's a sort of a preview for what we're going to be getting into next time. Anyways, thank you everybody for stopping by. Thank you again, St. Players. Notice you're not here, but thanks for the raid again through that. I'm looking forward to streaming again. I don't think I'm going to stream later today, but when I do stream, I tweet out. And obviously there's a what is it? The push notification that goes out to everybody. So follow here on Twitch, follow on Twitter for those notifications. You could also follow on YouTube for when these videos get. I put them up after like a couple days up there. So with that, thank you everybody for stopping by. I'm going to go have lunch, and I'll see you all next time.